Paula Sladewski wasn't just beautiful.
She was a knockout.
Yeah, she definitely was gorgeous. When Paula walked in a room, heads would turn.
Now investigators wonder if the young model's drop-dead good looks may also have turned the head of a crazed killer during a wild night of partying at a Miami nightclub.
She was dressed in this very sexy outfit.
She kind of stood out a little bit more than everybody else in their club.
Everybody was watching Paula.
And the 26-year-old would be found murdered in the ugliest of ways, just hours after leaving the club.
It was just such a horrendous crime.
A lot of anger seemed to be involved in whatever happened here.
There was something they didn't want me to find or want the police to find.
Paula Sladewski had been blessed by nature from birth, and it didn't take long for her to realize it.
She just loved looking good. That was, you know, no hair out of place.
Big sister Kelly, who was 14 when Paula was born, remembers her having a weakness for cosmetics even as a toddler.
She had gotten into my purse, into my makeup, and just had it all over, drew all over her face.
These were when she was in dance.
And as Paula grew up in Detroit, Michigan, she basked in the attention her good looks brought her.
She just loved being the center of attraction. It was just all about her.
But Paula didn't just have beauty going for her. She also had brains.
She was good in school. She was an all-age student.
Paula had personality too.
Bubbly, vivacious.
And beneath all those assets, there beat a kind, compassionate heart that loved animals, especially her own 2 little dogs, as well as people in need.
I wanted her to just be a nurse because that's what her love was, just being a nurse. She wanted to be a nurse.
Paula went to college in California to study for a nursing career and financed it by using her looks to model.
She even went from dark hair to blonde hair.
They wanted different looks. They wanted the dark hair and then blonde hair. And then she got extensions. I just wanted her to be more natural. And she wanted to be more glamorous. It was about glamour with her, always about glamour.
Paula auditioned for Playboy, and although she never appeared in the magazine, she was featured in a Playboy video.
What did you think of that?
Well, I didn't really care for the modeling that much.
And Patsy was horrified to learn that Paula was also working as an exotic dancer in California strip clubs.
You freaked out.
I freaked out. What are you doing? What are you doing there?
When Paula visited the family back in Michigan, Mom became more disturbed.
I used to cry sometimes and tell her, Paula, you know, I noticed the little bit of the alcohol, and you know, we would talk about that, and I told her, I said, if this is what this job is doing to you, you just need to get out of it.
But the dancing was making Paula a lot of money to pay for her rich lifestyle.
She loved the expensive things in life, okay? She just loved buying the best of everything. Her clothes, her makeup, her extensions. That was Paula. We argued about it a lot. We really did.
Mother and daughter also argued about Paula's taste in men when she moved in with a boyfriend named Kevin Clem.
What about Kevin? Did you know him?
When I met Kevin, he looked a lot older than her, and I really didn't like him. I just said there's something about him.
But Paula and Kevin were tight. She even took him to her niece's wedding and then to Kelly's house for Christmas.
He seemed like a decent guy, but I didn't really know him all that well.
Kelly invited them to come over again for a New Year's Eve party a week later, but the couple had made plans to fly to Miami for a Lady Gaga concert.
And I said, well, that'll be fun, you know, have fun. And unfortunately, never got to see her or talk to her again. For some reason, she just wanted to see this concert. She says, don't worry, I'll be home in time for your birthday. I have something special planned for your birthday.
But Paula would never make it home. And Patsy would get the kind of early birthday surprise that is the stuff of every mother's worst nightmare.
She went to this stupid concert. Now she's gone.
Paula Sadusky and her boyfriend Kevin Klim had planned to fly into Las Vegas from their home in Southern California for New Year's Eve.
If she would have went to Vegas, she'd be alive.
But Paula and Kevin changed their minds when they found a good deal on tickets to a Lady Gaga concert in Miami.
Checking into a hotel in trendy South Beach for a long weekend of partying at its many nightclubs, as well as Club Space, a popular after-hours spot in an industrial area of North Miami.
The club's open all night long and into the next day.
All night long.
Yeah.
I mean, this is literally an all-night party affair.
If I had a daughter, she wouldn't be going to Club Space. You see people come out of there, sometimes very trashed.
And Paula and Kevin are said by police to be already very trashed when they arrived there around 5 to 5:30 Sunday morning after partying in South Beach for 2 days.
They had both been drinking a lot prior to getting to Club Space.
After drinking for another couple of hours at the club, there's suddenly a problem.
Things started happening inside the club.
Paula is a girl gone wild.
She was wearing a dress that was cut very low, showed off all her legs and her body.
She started lifting up her dress. She wasn't wearing any underwear and was creating quite a scene.
People were all over her. She was dancing with them. Guys were up at the bar, getting very close to her.
Kevin didn't like what he saw.
He wanted to get her out of there because it was time to go, and he grabbed her by the arm and said, "Let's go, babe, time to go." Paula resisted. She was having a time of her life.
It looked as if they were fighting.
I don't think they got into any blows or anything like that. He was just grabbing her. "Come on, we gotta go."
And P.I. Wasser says Kevin is kicked out of the club for causing a disturbance.
On that cold Miami morning, Kevin was escorted from this door, and what he tells investigators is that he jumped into a cab, headed back to his hotel, and went to sleep. That leaves Paula in this club by herself.
Yes.
But less than a half hour later, Paula is escorted out of the club too. And what she does then remains a mystery.
We don't know if she got into a car, if she was walking with
There's
someone.
different stories, but it depends on what witness that you believe.
It isn't until Paula's boyfriend, Kevin, wakes up alone in their hotel room around 11:30 a.m. that anyone even has an inkling that something may have happened to her.
He realized that she wasn't there and something was wrong. She would have been back.
He becomes concerned. He checks in with the hotel staff, and she has not returned yet. They haven't seen her. He starts to call around to hospitals.
And Kevin goes out to search for her.
Walking around the South Beach area, he didn't have a car with her picture on his cell phone. Have you seen her walking around? Maybe she was lost. She didn't know where she was.
But when he comes up empty, Kevin reports her missing to the police and hires P.I. David Wasser to help find her.
He sounded like he was desperate. He was almost crying on the phone that he had lost his girlfriend.
Wasser scours Miami for clues, including the area where Paula disappeared.
I spoke to cab drivers on Miami Beach. I spoke to a street artist and street people that were down at Club Space.
And still, no sign of Paula. Until Kevin calls the medical examiner's office.
To see if possibly she's there.
A Jane Doe had been found burned beyond recognition in a blazing dumpster about 12 miles from Club Space, about 13 hours after Paula had disappeared.
It was this man, Christopher Michael, who called the fire department when he saw the flames leaping high into the air.
The flames were at least to the light right there.
When the fire department extinguished the blaze and saw what was inside, they notified police.
When I got there, I saw the remains inside the dumpster.
And even a hardened veteran detective like Michael Gaudio was horrified.
I couldn't tell you the mindset of the person who would set another human being on fire. It was a brutal crime.
And the only thing left of her remains were some body piercing and some earrings.
Things happen, crimes of passion, but you don't go out to destroy them or their memory that horrifically.
The medical examiner gets Paula's dental records from her family.
And then they called me back and they said, "Are you sitting down?" And they identified that it was my sister.
Kelly and Mom Patsy are heartbroken.
If I could have traded places with her, I would have in a minute. You know, she was young, never got to experience getting married, having a baby.
I was talking suicide, and I just didn't want to live without her. And I still struggle today, even after I wear her ashes everywhere I go.
Her ashes are around your neck?
Every day, her ashes are around my neck. I had them put in a heart so I could wear her.
Police can't even tell Paula's family how she died, except that
Paula was already deceased prior to being set on fire. The medical examiner here, after the autopsy, was able to determine that.
They said it possibly strangulation because there was no knife marks, no gunshot wounds, but she was burned so bad that it was hard to tell.
Then Detective Gaudio discovers Paula's boyfriend Kevin was once arrested on domestic violence charges.
He broke her nose. He was in jail. She filed charges against him.
ever since Paula Sadusky's body had been found burned beyond recognition in a dumpster, her boyfriend Kevin had been a suspect in her murder.
He was a suspect because he was the last person to see her alive.
Police interviewed him for 12 hours.
He cooperated with them and gave them everything.
Offering to do polygraphs, whatever law enforcement wanted, he was there to assist.
Kevin had seemed genuinely distraught when Paula first went missing, calling hospitals and the medical examiner's office, even reporting her disappearance to police as he searched for her with the help of PI David Wasser.
I listened to his story, both with the police and as we had time together. Tell her that I can meet her at 2:30.
And Wasser was convinced Kevin was innocent, as was Kevin's attorney, Mark Beginnin.
From the moment I met him, I realized that he had nothing to do with this.
But Detective Michael Gaudio wasn't so sure.
Initially, I didn't believe his story.
That after getting thrown out of Club Space nightclub for causing a disturbance with Paula, that he took a taxi back to his hotel in South Beach and went to sleep.
Initially, I thought it was odd that he'd leave her there.
Detective Gaudio also discovered Kevin had once been arrested on domestic violence charges for allegedly hitting Paula.
When I learned that they had that incident of domestic violence where her nose was broken, that's something any investigator is going to look at twice, especially in the situation that we're in now.
The domestic battery case was ultimately dismissed, although Paula's mom claims her daughter once told her Kevin had also threatened to kill her.
She confided in me and told me, you know, how he threatened her, that if she ever left him, that he would cut her up in little pieces and put her in a bag. They'd never find her body. She told me that. Excuse me.
And Kevin and Paula's drunken argument at Club Space after she went wild and began flirting with other men wasn't the first time it had happened.
It was definitely a rocky relationship. They were the type of couple that liked to party.
But Kevin's attorney, Mark Beginnin, says Kevin's alibi of going straight back to the hotel after Club Space was airtight.
There's cab records and there's hotel records that show that.
His alibi checked out 100%.
And eventually, Detective Gaudio also came to believe Kevin may not have had anything to do with Paula's murder.
We explored several avenues how he could possibly have been involved. Nothing ever could pan out on it. His stories seemed credible. In the investigation, we found out everything he was telling us we followed up on was accurate.
This surveillance video from Club Space further supported Kevin's alibi.
It shows Kevin going out first.
And the shadowy figure right there behind Paula raised questions about whether her killer might have even have followed her out of the club.
As she's walking out, she's got a man following her. There's a couple bouncers that are sitting by the front door hallway there, and they immediately follow her out of there as well.
It was the one concrete piece of evidence that showed that Kevin was not the last person to see Paula alive.
Detective Gaudio investigated all the bouncers at the club.
All their timesheets and records and their backgrounds Nothing proved that they had any involvement with her disappearance at all.
Nor, says Detective Gaudio, did the man seen following her out the door, who turned out to also be one of the club's security staff. But Kevin's attorney still believes it is possible she was tailed by a patron in the club.
What do you believe happened to Paula that morning?
I can't say for certain, but what we do know is that Paula left. There were some witnesses' accounts that she left with another person, and that is all we know.
Police would later release a sketch of a man one witness said they saw walking away from the club with Paula.
I decided to put that out in lieu of having anything else hard to put out there. Maybe we can find another witness who can verify a story that we heard of somebody matching this description.
But that hasn't happened, and Detective Gaudio is left with nothing more than a hunch.
Whoever she hooked up with, either an argument ensued, something happened, she didn't want to be where she was anymore, and she ended up there.
And the remote industrial area where Paula's body was found incinerated in this dumpster is one of the reasons Detective Gaudio thinks Kevin is innocent, because he didn't have a car to get there, nor enough knowledge of Miami to find it. The killer is more likely to have been a local resident who knew the city well.
It's not a place that tourists frequent. It's kind of an out-of-the-way, dead-end street. So I believe somebody in the area knows something about it or had something to do with it.
They would have seen smoke from this dumpster.
P.I. Wasser concurs and says the fact that neither he nor the police could find any witnesses who might have seen Paula's murderer disposing of her body and setting the dumpster on fire indicates the killer knew he would not be spotted.
From my investigation, and I canvassed this area right here, nobody saw anything, nobody knew anything.
Now, 6 years after the murder of Paula Slodowski, her killer, whoever he may be, is still free, leaving her family in a painful, emotional limbo.
Before I go to be with her one day in heaven, I would just like to know who's responsible for hurting her, for taking my baby away, especially the way that she was taken.
We just would really like some answers, and the person that did this horrible crime should pay.
And Detective Gaudio remains hopeful of bringing Paula's killer to justice.
I would like to one day be able to make that phone call and tell them that, give them the good news, at least bring them some peace of mind anyway.
Perhaps with the help of Crime Watch Daily.
Right now, hoping something like this can regenerate an interest in the case. Somebody knows what happened.